Hey, what's up? Welcome to 321 Sportscast. I'm Scooter. I'm sitting here with Laithum Kellum in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and we're here to talk about some foil boarding. But Laithum, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
Awesome. So Laithum is what I would consider a seasoned waterman in all facets, but lately I've been seeing you on the foil board in the lineup, and just can you tell me about the foiling?
It's just a new toy to play with in the water. It's pretty much reinvigorated, Florida surfing for me, because you feel compelled to travel as a Florida surfer growing up. And every time you get out to the end of the street, you look at the lineup, and it is what it is. But with advent of technology and composites and some other materials that came up, and just guys trying it day after day, just trying to make this new thing kind of work, it works really well. And it just opened up the doors as far as pretty much right in our backyard.
That's awesome. It's interesting. How long has that actually been? Like, when did foil boarding start? Who started it, and how long have you been into it?
Foil boarding's probably been around. I think it was Mike Murphy, a wake surf guy, wake ski, or just a skier inside the lakes in Central Florida. He was experimenting back in the 60s and developed a couple of things, and it evolved into what was called the air chair, and the sky ski then came after that. But who really kind of capitalized on it for extreme sports was Dave Kalama and Larry Hamilton and that group. And they took the air chair and they cut some of the pieces off and started standing on it and going behind the boat, and it worked. And they just translated that right out to in the big surf out in Unbroken Swell out in Hawaii.
Give me a little bit of a background as to how you got into foil boarding. I know you just didn't start foil boarding. Tell me a little bit. Did you start surfing? And
yeah, I mean, I grew up surfing. It's all I've ever known growing up. I mean, my dad used to drag me out to Sebastian Inlet, and I remember when the low rail at the jetty was like, it was over my head and reaching up, and that real slick part of the jetty used to scare me going around, and that stuff's long gone now. But just really growing up surfing around here and really just being dragged around by parents. But as I started surfing on my own, just plugging into that crowd, and First Peak Sebastian Inlet, I thought that was the only place in the world that you could surf. I thought everybody on the planet surfed as well. So my world was pretty small back then. As I got older, you expand your horizons a little bit, and I did shortboarding, longboarding, and things like that. And eventually I got into kite surfing. My brother-in-law came home from Hawaii, and he's like, "Hey, you got to try this thing out." And I was like, "Oh, well, okay, sure, I'm down." And we ended up doing it right back here, picked it up pretty quick, got addicted to that, and then the kite surfing and the foiling kind of bled into each other. So I started foiling with a kite, and that was pretty amazing. And nobody really told me that you don't really kite foil in the surf. It was just immediately I was out in the surf doing it and dropping in on these bigger waves, and it was like, man, there's some energy here. There's something here. Yeah. And the kites were stalling out of the sky because I was going so fast. The wave energy was just pushing me. So I was like, oh man, just the gears started turning. Like, what if this wing was bigger? And then you start kicking along things in your head. Well, synergistically in Hawaii, they're doing the same thing. These wings started getting a little bit bigger from the kite foil wings, and they started expanding where you could actually just paddle in and surf on these things. And I think about the time the gears were turning in our head, it's about the time that internet clip broke with Kai Lenny, where it just blew the internet up. It just broke the internet for a couple of weeks when he just dropping in, pumping back out, catching 4 waves. And by that time I was like, whoa, okay, this is here, this is working. So the equipment started getting better from there, and we were just riding that surge and figuring it out all together, I guess.
Back to what you just said about pumping back for 4 waves. I've seen you in the lineup do that, and then I'm catching a wave and I'm paddling back out like everybody else, and you catch 4 waves without even getting back down on your board to paddle. Just tell me how cool that is. Like, what's that like?
It's super cool, and I can imagine, because I also have some empathy for the guys that are also in the lineup with me. However, to get started to that point, you're at a disadvantage to even shortboarders. You're on the inside, you got to wait for that right little chip, that little wave. But once you're up and running, yes, you can expand out. It takes some fitness. I've had to shed off some bad habits, sugar, alcohol, all those things, they're out. So as I'm approaching 50, I'm like, I'm kind of in a better shape than I was all the way through my 30s and stuff. So that's kind of helped invigorate that again. But truly, it is a workout to get those pumping and get that down. But like I said, it's just that wave etiquette, that wave knowledge. You've got to, like I said, I was talking to somebody the other day. I said, with great power comes great responsibility. You have to be a good neighbor and know that you just can't just pump out and go get 4 waves off the outside lineup. You got to be like, okay, guys, I'll pump this way. I'll go down 2 more streets or whatever. So
good neighbor, I like that. Because there's some bad neighbors out there. Some of those stand-up guys and then you foil guys, man. You guys get all the waves. It's kind of funny, but much respect for the good neighbor stuff. Can you show us a little bit about the equipment here?
Sure. Yeah, actually, I'll show you real quick. So this is your typical wing, and one of the biggest things, guys in the lineup will come up to me, and one of my favorite spots is in the next county up. I won't name any spots, but it's typically way outside of where everybody else is at.
Okay.
And you're out there with a lot of creatures and wildlife. So that's one thing that foiling will get you, is out in the open and away from where normal people actually surf. So sometimes somebody paddles up and goes, hey man, let me see that thing. They've never seen one before. So I'll just show them the wing, and it's like, hey, you know, it's not as sharp and as scary as you think it would be. It's got some nerfed edges, and it's pretty round. The backside's kind of sharp, but not too bad. You know, not too sharp really. But really, this, like I said, I went all through my life surfing on every type of board imaginable, and I never really paid attention to fins. You know, what fin setup guys were using. I'd see some of the higher, more elite surfers just geeking out over what fin they put on their board. I understand now that is a real thing. So
yeah. I know nothing about fins, and I've never specifically went fin shopping. I got a little nub one time because I saw Kelly had one, and that's the only reason I got it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But typically, all these foil designs have been around since, I think, really the 50s. You know, probably earlier than that with airfoils and airplane design. But every foil out there is in a book. It's called a NACA foil, which is basically the precursor to NASA. And they come up with all coefficients. All the math is worked out for a lot of these, and really just figure out what works for surfing. And that's where we've gotten to with some of these. This one's a GL 100. This is my tow foil. So I'll use this on some of the bigger days and some of the no-name breaks that are beyond the horizon that we've discovered. But I'll be on a smaller foil on a day like that. And it works just like an airplane wing. You know, it's got a curved top, asymmetrical, flat bottom. It creates lift in this direction. Sure. Which comes down to your surfboard fin. It's like that, you know?
Right.
So same concept, same technique, but it's just in a horizontal plane.
And it enables you to ride, like what I can tell when I see you out in the water, it's a much smaller board, right? I mean,
very small.
Can we look at a whole setup and see what that looks like?
So I started out with my own mind, really, what was going on with how big this board should actually be. And as time went on, within a few weeks of making a board and going, oh, this is too big, that's too big, whatever, I got down to about this size, and this is my 311. So this is my smaller paddle board.
That's 3 feet 11 inches?
3 feet 11 inches.
Jeez.
It's about 3 inches thick, and it's designed to be thick because it has where the fin socket actually goes in. We call this the mast.
Okay.
So, this thing out real quick. So this design is really simple. There's a couple designs out on the market now. Some use a lot of parts, and some use like this. I got 2 screws mounted into the board. It's very, very strong and very, very stout. And very simple. That's why I like it so much. The foil flow is great. Not a whole lot of moving parts or anything to really fail on you. So that's the foil here. If you can see that.
Nice.
Tail wing, stabilizer, front wing. I call it the main wing, and this is called a mast. So.
What's the total weight you think on something like that? How much does that
This
setup
one all up. This weighs about probably about 8 pounds maybe. And these boards now that we've gotten, this construction. Is one of my good friends in Merritt Island. He's been making windsurf and SUPs and kiteboards forever. This is a Negra and carbon together, and a Negra, you shapers out there know that it's really tough to work with. As soon as you put sandpaper on a Negra, it just fuzzes out and goes crazy. Yeah. So he's come up with a really good process to make sure that doesn't happen, but it ends up with a board that's brutally tough. And this thing probably weighs about not even 6 pounds. So all up, the 6 plus the 7, you're looking at 13, 14 pounds total. Which is bizarre because you see all these pieces and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what must weigh 20 pounds?
Yeah.
Some boards do weigh 20 pounds. Some boards are very heavy, but for the stuff that I like, it's very light, and I love it.
The technology is pretty much mind blowing to me, just because I thought this thing was going to weigh 50 pounds when I saw it when you were getting out of the truck. So that's pretty rad. Where's some of your favorite places to do it?
Like I said, unnamed spots. But believe me, you don't need to go to like I said, I was talking to somebody else recently about, you know, some areas are kind of sanctuaries for longboarders, and, you know, you want to have, you know, just a spot by yourself. You gotta, when you go to paddle out, go try to find a spot. There's a guy already on it. He's probably either local or he's already there. He's been there a while, but we try to find those spots that aren't quite breaking so good. So for us, we can deal with the high tide, you know, the off tides when everybody's going home and they're, you know, the waves are good that morning and they're leaving. Well, I have some friends that said in another county further up that when the waves get junky and the tide changes, they go inside and grab their foil boards and go back out, and they just continue on till the later, you know, tide gets better again. They jump back on their surfboard and off they go. But for me, it's like I'm typically coming to the beach when most other guys are leaving, if it's, like I said, a normal spot. But for the wilderness spots that are out there, it's just your imagination. You know, there's spots that you know of when you're a kid that you look out outside indicators saying, okay, it's going to be north or south near certain inlets or whatever. And you can capitalize on that little feathering break way on the outside, paddle out to it with a foil, drop in and ride that thing all the way into the beach. It's pretty incredible.
I don't know if I have the patience to learn it, but I want to be able to do what you do and pump back the waves without stopping. That looks like a lot of fun. So in terms of competitions or anything like that, is there anything like that going on right now in Florida?
There's a few loose ones. There's one recently that one of our wake skate buddies, Brian Grubb, had kind of developed with some of the guys from Puerto Rico, and it's just a marathon event, and it's it's called Foil Racing League, and it's got basically it's like a triathlon. You got surfing, running, and pumping all included in there. So it's a set course. You paddle out all together, and the first person to complete a couple laps, it advances, and then it's by, first, second, third. So it incorporates all those skills, that balance, that endurance, and that fitness really comes into play.
Do they run that in Florida?
We had one in Cocoa Beach just at the Beach and Boards event,
right
as it was shutting down because of the pandemic stuff. But we were able to pull the event off. It was really cool. We had some guys from all over come by. We had Austin Kalama from Hawaii, and guys from St. Augustine and New Jersey and North Carolina all showed up, and Texas. So it was just amazing to see the talent level. It's just this totally new thing, and just watching these guys go at it.
Is it an annual event? Will we see it next year? Or?
Possibly. They're looking for other venues as well. I think Red Bull is one of the main backers of it, and that's because Brian Grubb is a Red Bull athlete, so it just kind of came from their wheelhouse, and it piqued up a lot of interest. So it was really cool. It was just this new type of thing, where it wasn't quite a subjective contest. It was very objective. Like, you're first across the line, you get first place.
Right.
But it was a hoot. It's a lot of work.
Well, so talking to you, it sounds like you live this stuff every single day, 24 hours a day, but I know you have a day job. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, I'm a firefighter, local at Cocoa Beach. Been there for, I think I just passed 22 years there. So I've been a paramedic for pretty much the whole time, since my early 20s. Okay. But I've always been in the area. I've always worked EMS and public safety. So coolest job I've ever had. So.
Yeah, I believe it, man. I bet it's rewarding too. And big respects to that. And I'm sure everybody out here wants to thank you for that, for all your work too that you do with the fire department. You got anybody you want to give a shout out to, sponsors or friends, or anybody else you just want to say what's up to?
Yeah, just my local buddies. Billy Bosch and Jeremy Edgar. Billy runs Good Breeze Kiteboarding, which is also a foil outlet. It's a local spot to get whatever gear you need. They got it. Nice. I've been riding for Go Foil with their equipment for a while. Sort of on their team, but not, what I mean, how that works in the environment. But I love their stuff. It's incredibly simple, very strong, and they keep pushing the envelope, new designs over and over, and just getting it out there, making it easier for us to do, enjoy it a lot easier and quicker.
Nice. Well, cool. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today, man. I appreciate it. I'm here with Laithum, Kellum. We're in Cocoa Beach, and thanks for tuning in to 321 Sportscast. Thanks, man.